In this video, I'm going to be 3D printing my fancy wargaming table, and I'm going to be taking all of these little hex tiles, turning them into things like this, and also printing some trees to go along with it. Oh, and building a table to go underneath it. So let's get on with it. So originally I was trying to think about what did I want to do with the table, and I found these like little hex tiles. And the reason I like these so much is that you can swap out all the different parts. So these are like just the flat ones that I've got held up here. And in the B-roll, you will see some different ones. So you've got ones that have got roads. There's ones that have rivers. There's ones that have hills or cliffs. Just absolutely loads of different things. Now I bought their basic set, and basically that includes all like the flat pieces, some rocky pieces, some raised pieces as well. And I also bought their little road system as well, because that way I can have like a road that goes through a village. And the great thing is you can quickly change out the different type of table that you're using. So I could have loads of flat ones. Then if I wanted to have like a rocky cliff bit, I could swap out some of these tiles and clip them in and stuff like that. And it just offers a lot of modularity without having to change up the entire board. So I like this. The only problem with it is it gets quite expensive really quickly. I think it was about $40 for like the base pack, and then the additional packs as well. They're between like 20 and 30, sometimes a little bit more depending on what you're getting. So it can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. But my thoughts on these were that it just offers so much modularity, and it allows me to bring my 3D printers into this build as well. Now I did do a couple of comparisons with other types of systems as well, and there was another one I think called Hexhog. I might be getting that wrong, but I'm sure it's Hexhog, and they do the same sort of thing, but they're much smaller little hexes. I prefer these just because it means that you're swapping out a larger piece and you see less gaps between them, but that's also an alternative for people as well. So the first protocol was to get all of these printed, and thankfully Jamhay sent over a whole bunch of filament. This isn't a sponsored video, but they were kind enough to send over all of the stuff because they thought this would be quite a fun project. Now they sent it over in bright orange, and in hindsight I should have probably asked for brown because that would take out a lot of the steps later on, but I got like 5 kilos of the stuff, so I figured let's go crazy. Now in this video I'm just going to be printing off basically the more flat pieces and a couple of road systems and stuff like that, along with some other bits of terrain to go on top just so we can demonstrate it, but this is going to be part of a series. So as I go through it, think about what do you want me to print off next when it comes to these, and somehow I've not flung them like hex frisbees. There are loads of rivers, and I'm kind of tempted to do like a river system, but I really want to do all like the hills and cliffs and stuff like that. And they do a really fun looking cave system as well. And that looks like it'd be a lot of fun if you're into like your D&D. You could have absolutely masses of stuff here. So I got all of these printed off, and then it was over to basically mixing them up. And I went back and forth on these so many times the way that I did them. So I primed all of these brown just to keep it nice and simple. So I just got my brown rattle can primer, gave them all a good spray, then left it for some time just so it was all nice and cured and ready to go. Next step for these is just doing like a simple dry brush all over. So I'll start with like a grey, and then I move to like a cream over the top just to pick out some of those details. Now I did a couple of like test paints of these, and the first time around I dry brushed everything, which actually ends up being a bit of a waste of time, because when we come on to the flocking stage of this, I almost said that very badly, you end up covering up pretty much everything. So in the next set, I'm going to try just dry brushing like the road bits there, so like the stonework and stuff like that. Anywhere where there's some like rocks protruding and stuff like that, I'll dry brush it as well. But for all like just the brown dirt bits, I'm going to leave those because I will and truly cover them up. Now for the flock, I'm using a combination of 2 different things. The first bit I'm using like a brown flock, which is made from tea leaves. So basically my wife thinks that I really love her and I love making her tea, but really I like getting the flock from this. So all I do for that is I get the old tea bags, I split them open and I pop them into a pot, and then each day I throw them into this like filament dryer that I've got that's been recently sent over to me by iBoss. And it's really good because it's just big enough to put a nice little tray in there, and I can heat it up, dry it out completely, and then I'm ready to sprinkle that on there. And then for the grass flock, I've got 3 different greens here that I'm using. And all I do for that is I take a little container, I pop some of the green paint in there, and then I slowly add sawdust into this and mix it up. And you want to mix it really well, so that way all that paint mixes in, and you want to wait until it's quite a nice dry consistency. You ultimately don't want to have too much paint left over because then it's going to be soggy, it's all going to clump together. So just keep adding sawdust until it's a really nice dry consistency. And then I do exactly the same as I've done for my tea leaves. So I put them into a little baking tray, throw them into my filament dryer, and let it dry out. And once that's done, I am well and truly ready to flock these tiles. For the flocking process, I have been using this PVA. I'm popping it into like a little spray thing here, so that's really cheap off Amazon. And then you can either spray it all over your tile, or you can use a pipette. Now, what I'm doing is when I've got no flock on there, I'm spraying the tile and just getting it well and truly soaked in. So it's about a 50-50 mix of PVA with water, spraying it onto the tile, and then slowly adding the flock on there. And now basically what you'll see is that flock will soak up a lot of the PVA and stick to it, leave it to dry, and then you can come back in there and either give it a complete saturation with spray, or you can use a pipette to really add some of it in there. The good thing about using a pipette is if you're not able to do this outdoors because weather doesn't permit, for example, it's really easy just to take a pipette and kind of like smother it all on there. So you can just add loads of the, I guess, like watery PVA onto it, and then use your pipette to kind of like rub it all in and get good coverage. And then you can add more with the pipette later on as well. So you don't have to worry about getting it all over your desk or anything like that. It gives you more control over where it goes. If you're adding rocks and stuff like that on there, you can drop them on top of it and then just use that pipette to soak it in. So for the trees, they're really easy to do as well. I've just been getting them printed off and I'll have the files down below for you guys to see. So get them printed and then it's time to get them primed and use my airbrush just to get some browns on them and then some highlights. And then all I do is, again, I go back to my dry brush stage and I just dry brush them all cream, and that helps to pick out some of that like a woody, barky detail. For the canopies, I've used a couple of different things. So I've been using these like tree canopy things from Wargaming Scenics. They work really, really nicely. They do smell when you start to add some water and like PVA to them, but once they dry out, they're fine. And originally I started off with this like clump scenery as well, again from Wargaming Scenics. You could probably make your own quite easily. But I do like this tree canopy stuff that they've got. You basically put it all over. I've been using some hot glue from below just to kind of glue it all down. And once it's on there, what you'll find is if you don't seal it, it will then molt everywhere. So again, same with what I've been doing with my flock and my terrain. I've been using the PVA mix, spraying it all over that so it just completely saturates all of the canopy. And then what you'll find is once you let that dry out, it will be really nice and hard, almost like a plasticky texture, and you don't have to worry about loads of bits molting and falling off. So that's how my trees work, and they look really good. I love the way these look, especially as like a backdrop and stuff like that. So the table that they're on is this. And basically I got some MDF and I cut all the bits of wood down to size here and put like this brace in the middle. Now I wanted these to be collapsible, and that's why you can see these bits here. Before I explain the rest, I'm going to put it down because otherwise I'll drop it and break it. So the idea is that I can use these legs that I got from IKEA, and they're about £4 each, so they're pretty reasonable. And they've got that screw bit under there. So I've screwed onto each of the corners, and then these screw in and they screw off as well. So when I'm not using the tables, so here's one that's up behind me, and basically that has all the legs in. And then if I want to put that one next to it, I can obviously put these legs in, put it next to it. Going to create a couple of extra ones as well, so that way I can have as much table space as I need for the size of battle that I'm going to be using. The other thought that I had with these is, because I have all this like hollow space on the back of them as well, is I might get some insulation and put them on the inside of it, and then get some fabric sheeting for the bottom as well. And that would create some like makeshift sound panels. And I figured that would be really handy for just when I'm filming videos and stuff like that, and I want to control the sound out here a little bit better, maybe do a bit, more echo control and stuff like that. I could use those. I could stick it behind the camera, which would be really handy. I'd also probably paint the front as well to match them the same as this wall, because my thoughts are to put some hooks on the back of it, so the side that you can see behind me there, which will become the sound panel, and basically those hooks would then hook onto the wall and they would like blend in. So I can hang these tables on the wall when I'm not using them, take them down when I want to use them for either gaming or as a sound panel, and then hook them back up afterwards. Another idea that I kind of had, which I'm probably not going to do because I am definitely not skilled enough when it comes to any kind of woodworking, but I figured if you cut those in half, because you've got all this hollow space in the middle, you could cut them down the middle, like, widthways, and then put some hinges on them. So that way they would close up almost like a suitcase, and then like a handle on the edge. And you could have, although it would be pretty big, but a pretty good miniature and terrain carrying case that also then unfolds and becomes a table. I think that would be awesome. And it would be big and probably pretty heavy, but it wouldn't be too heavy and it wouldn't be too big. It would definitely fit in the back of a car. So you could like have a couple of those and take them to a friend's house or a gaming place. I really like that idea, but I'm probably not good enough to pull that off. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on that. Okay, so here we have the finished product and all the bits there. So honestly, these came out really, really nicely. I'm really impressed with how well this is all taken. Once it was all down there, putting a bit of like sealant over the top of it, everything sticks nicely, which is good. The one regret I have is on some of them I put some like flowery tufts, which means that stacking them doesn't then happen, so you need to have a little bit more space. For the most part, this has come out nicely. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there's also loads of additional stuff I can get. I can get some of those river pieces, I can get some of the cliff pieces, I could get some of the hills, the caves. So let me know in the comments which one you want me to add into this next, and I'll do my best to make that happen. The only reason I haven't gone mad and done the whole lot is because the price adds up very, very quickly once you start buying all of these. So I want to stagger myself and kind of do some more bits. But I'm really impressed with these so far. I think it'll add a lot more modularity to the gaming, add some 3D printing bits to the tabletop, and yeah, here we go. Also, let me know what you want me to do with these tables. Do you want me to turn them into sound panels? Do you want me to try something else? Do you want a full video on what I did with this and how that proceeds as well, separate to this? And do you want a sci-fi version of this? I'm probably going to make a sci-fi version of this because why not? I'm printing off loads of sci-fi stuff lately. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much to Jam Hay for sending over the filament for this as well. Yes, here we go. This is going to become a bigger project than I expected.